The Michael Showalter is an internet show hosted by my colleague Michael Showalter. Yes, I will be on that show in the future, soon. Yes.
Were there any one of the stories that you enjoyed the most, and which one was the most difficult one for you to prepare?
I really enjoyed them all. To choose one would be like making Sophie's choice. They all had obstacles. Shooting in Mexico was very difficult because, as they said to me, in New York, time is money, but in Mexico, time is time and money is money, and we do things on our own schedule, and it was very interesting. There were a lot of weird things that happened down there, and the CAT scan one was particularly rigorous, we only had 3 actual CAT scan props, and we had to try to move them around all the time, and they weighed a ton, and it was a very difficult shoot. But it was a hard shoot because it was a very low budget film, which we tried to do a lot. We had 40 locations in 25 days. Okay, any other questions? Yeah? How I picked Justin Theroux for Jesus? Justin Theroux is the guy who lives down the street from me in New York, and I am a fan of his acting, and when we had that part, and thinking about who to cast, I just thought he was one of the first people I asked to do it, because I just thought he'd be perfect, and I think he was. Thank you. Yeah.
How do you and Craig work together in terms of the way you perceive the music in advance or during, or
how do me and the composer work together? Craig Wedren. Thank you, David. The way we did it on this mostly was we would edit the film, edit the scenes together, and then in an early cut we would lay in temporary music that we would grab from anywhere. But in this case, we used a lot of Craig's music that he'd done for other movies as possible temp, including a lot of stuff from beautiful Ohio, which is playing right around the corner. And so I was using Craig's music as the temp, and then we would go back and talk about it. And we did a lot of back and forth, and because Craig and I grew up together, and he's done everything I've ever done. We had a great, experience really honing the music and trying to figure out exactly, he did a lot of music for the temp, and I think he did a great job. Some of it I feel like he did beforehand, but I can't remember which. Certainly the song at the end, where they make you guys all sing and it becomes the finale, was written by David Yazbek, and that was done before we shot the movie. Yeah.
What are you working on now?
What am I working on now? I have a few movies that I'm in various stages of preparation. The closest one of which is about 4 couples who are all in the highly competitive world of trying to get their kids into Manhattan preschool, and that might shoot this summer. And also working on promoting this and preparing the DVD of the show The State, which is coming out. Thank you. Yes.
Was Winona purposefully cast so we did not steal one? Or
was Winona Ryder purposely cast so we did not steal? Honestly, no. She just, she was pitched to us actually by her agency for the movie, and this was a perfect part for her. And I remember I called her and she said, "Which commandment is it?" And I said, "Do not steal." And she said, "Perfect." Okay. Any other questions? Yeah.
Yeah. It's rumored that your film Wet Hot American Summer is based on Camp Live. Is it?
It's rumored that the film Wet Hot American Summer is based on Camp Wives. Well, the answer is in part yes, because I went to Camp Wives. So do you. Good, very nice. Go Camp Wives. And specifically, the Skylab subplot was because that was in the summer of '79 when there was this scare that Skylab was going to fall back to Earth, and that's when I was at Camp Wives. And so I remember being at Camp Wives in Chardon, Ohio, and thinking, what if it hit our camp? Which it didn't do, but then in my imagination, it did. don't, he asked, have we gotten a lot of complaints from literally religious groups? I mean, first of all, we haven't had a lot of screenings at churches or I mean, we do, yes, we've done, Jerry Falwell's group several times. But, it's not really a religious movie, so I don't know why the religious groups would have an issue with it. We haven't, it's not, and it's also not making fun of or satirizing religion. It's just stories inspired by the Ten Commandments. Yeah.
Would you be satisfied if they did complain though?
Would I be satisfied if they complained?
Yeah.
No. I wouldn't be unsatisfied either. I would be nonplussed. Okay. Yes, that's it.
How would you compare making this film to When Hot American Summer?
Compare this to making Wet Hot American Summer, which is my first feature released in 2001. I would say, I'm 7 years older, so it was easier in that way, or 6 years older, I guess. I mean, I was more experienced, and I had done it already once, and so there was some mistakes I didn't make the second time. This movie was a lot more ambitious from a production point of view, so it was in some ways harder, but in some ways easier. And making Wet Hot American Summer was everybody living at a summer camp and sleeping in the bunks and eating camp food and running around in the rain. So it had a certain dreamy quality of the process that was more different. But we got to go to Mexico for this, and we shot one day in LA and the rest in New York. Sure.
How much of the shooting, how much do you allow for improvisation?
How much do you allow for improvisation? Surprisingly little, because of time, really. We had to get so much done every day that, and also the movie's a lot more scripted than it might seem. We work with the actors a little bit before, and we allow for a lot of alts, and I try to be flexible and allow for a lot of different ideas to come in. For the most part, though, when the camera was rolling, we stuck to the script that Ken Rain and I wrote. Okay, yes.
In terms of writing the script, do you use focus groups at all? Do you have reading? What's your process in film?
Writing the script, did we have focus groups and readings? No. In this case, we didn't. In other movies, I would. The 10 was so sort of weird in its own way. It sort of is what it is in a lot of ways. And we would give it to some friends to read, and mostly that was the response we got. Was it's funny, but it's hard to give notes on it because it kind of is what it is. But and we also wrote it very quickly in a week. But and then what we did though is in editing, we shot another movie's worth of from what you see here. And then in editing, we did a lot of testing, a lot of focus groups, a lot of, building the movie that you see in the editing process. And that's when we really look at the audience. But in writing, I felt like this particular project didn't warrant that kind of scrutiny. For better or for worse, right? By the way, when it comes out on August 3rd, hopefully it'll play in Cleveland and it'll actually show on film. This was a video projection, which is why it looks so blurry. Yes?
Did you shoot in a unified format? This was a video projection that you shot film?
The movie was shot on 35mm film entirely, except for the little pieces within the first Stephen Montgomery section, which are supposed to be data and home video and so forth, and the animation, of course, which was done in Flash. Okay, I feel like that's probably it. Unless there's any other stuff. Thank you so much. Thanks for coming.